Welcome, 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 welcome,
Welcome, welcome, welcome, welcome, welcome,
welcome to the Rum. Hey, Constantine!
Bryan.
Oh, here we are.
How is it, everybody?
To the Rum, everybody. Hello,
Welcome to the Rum.
Welcome to the Rum. I still think our jingle is the best in the history of mankind. And of course, I'm obviously biased.
When you hear the music just now, we're not singing that live. We used to sing that live, and I kind of miss it. Don't you miss that doing? Maybe we should do it anyway. And
I think we should every once in a while. So that this is the jingle. It happened just out of circumstance. The first one that Constantine and I ever recorded, and only one of two that we've recorded together, just with geographical differences. We needed something to hype ourselves up, and so fortunately, there's like a professional jingle with it now. But yeah, it's just so like every time we're about to kick off, I still have the
huge budget now. Actually, we started off with a budget,
monumental budget. But hey, everybody, thanks for tuning into the Rum. So we are available on Spotify, Podcasts, Stitcher, Amazon Music, and YouTube now. So Google Podcasts is now on YouTube, and we have over 300 subscribers. Constantine, I can't believe it. Woo!
Right.
Hey, kick us off with some updates, Constantine. Where are we at?
Yeah,
what's going on in your
updates.
World?
Man, we are deep in cane cutting season here in Fiji, which means my house is full of smoke. Every other day, because I don't know if you know, in some places in the world, they burn the cane fields before they harvest. And then they harvest, and then all the cane trash, the leaves and stuff that they leave on the fields, then they burn that. So we get burned twice here. It's awful for the cane, though. The productivity goes down, and the government's trying to get people to stop doing it, but it's easier to do, and it gets all the hornets and stuff out of the field. So that's still how they do it here in Fiji. Other than that, man, we've got Fiji Rum and Tiki Festival, September 2025. Exact dates coming soon. Hope to see a lot of you out. Hope to see our friends from Ireland make the trip all the way to Fiji for Fiji Rum and Tiki next year. Now, you can do that because they just opened up a flight from Fiji to Dallas direct. And what Fiji Airways has said, they've got a map. And if you go London, Dallas, Fiji, 2 flights, you could actually get here. So if you guys can get to London, you can get to Fiji in one shot, or kind of one shot. So it opens up Europe to Fiji. It also opens up the Southeast United States. So if you're in the Southeast, no excuses for not coming to Fiji anymore. Bryan, the Rum champion. He's the champion. I'm the runner-up. What's going on in your world?
So just 2 quick updates. So the Facebook group, the Rum Curious Facebook group, is blowing up, Constantine. Right now, there are 1,487 members, making us, I think, the second largest behind the Florida Rum Society. And we're coming for you, Jay. We're coming. And so then there's that. And then the only other big thing, because I want to get into our topic for today, because I'm super excited about this, is our next barrel, our 3rd barrel pick of the Rum Curious Club, went on pre-order yesterday or the day before. $60 for a bottle of Chairman's Reserve, bottled at 57%. Awesome. It's a column pot still combo, and it's available at Chips Liquor. If you're in the United States, most likely Chips can ship to you, with the exception to a few states, the usual ones that don't drink. Outside of that, for Rum and Tiki Fest, I will say anybody with Celtic heritage like myself and our 2 guests, make sure to have an abundance of sunscreen, because I burn so easy. And so I'm very proud of my roots, but also it works against me being in the sun for too long. Outside of that, Constantine, we're super excited. We're continuing on with our rum from unexpected places. So in the past, we've done Boston, we've done Denver, we've done Scotland, and we've done Cambodia. And so now we are turning to the Emerald Isle, Ireland. And so who do we have, Constantine?
I mean, who knew that you would find rum in Ireland? But we found it because that's what we do. We go out and we find the things that you can't find. And we've got Brendan Carty here from Killowen Distillery, and we've got Oliver Guirke from Fore Distillery in Ireland. And guys, look, if you got to go look up the pictures of these places, because when you see just the picturesque scenery and just idyllic of where these distilleries sit, I mean, it's amazing. We're working right now in Fiji with our little distillery. We're kind of in an industrial site. You can get out to see the nice places, but these guys are literally sitting in just the pastoral countryside and all the beauty of Ireland surrounding them.
Absolutely. Gentlemen, well, Ollie, Brandon, Thanks for joining.
Cheers, Brian.
Thanks very much.
Good stuff, Constantine.
Wow, we're so excited to have you. And so, does everybody want to give a brief intro, or do we want to team up, Constantine, or do we want to do show and tell first? I'm kind of salivating.
I want to see what you guys are drinking.
Oh yeah. So all right. Well, so Ollie, let's start with you. What are you? Are you having a nice dram or a tipple of something?
Yeah, to be honest, yeah, I am. I'm having a little bit of my own Fore rum.
Oh, there you
rum.
go.
But I don't have the proper glass, so I had to, because I got the times all mixed up here. I thought this show was supposed to be on in an hour, and I had to grab whatever I could.
No, that's quite all right. Well, the golden rum. So I actually do have a lovely little bottle of that, and for anybody that is interested, the Fore Valley Golden Irish Rum and the White Irish Rum are actually available on their website, and they will ship to the United States. I'm just saying. Hey, what about you, Brandon? What do you got? I see you've got a lovely, chemical, scientific instruments over there.
I just cracked open a bottle that I had sitting here, but the cork broke, so I just corked my bottle.
Oh, no.
So it's Clarence Johnson. I got it whenever I was over in Texas there a couple of years ago. But
oh wow!
Yeah,
all right, there you go.
You can't get stuff. You can't get this stuff over here, so you got to take it back with you in the car.
I will say I used to be Team Cork all the way. Of the cork. That just makes the bottle look fancier. Now I understand why Samaroli and their $400 bottles are twist offs, because there's nothing worse. I've done this with a few bottles of brands, so I won't name Blackadder. Sorry. But I went to get the cork off and it just disintegrated in. And I'm like, that's cool. It was only a $220 bottle of rum. Excellent. Yeah. I almost did it with the Black Dot last consignment. So anyways, I am team twist off, all the way. Yeah. But that Claren, that is awesome. The Sanson, that's really good stuff.
It's good. Yeah. At least there's the positive after corking it, I'll probably have to drink the whole thing now.
I know, right? All right. So and we'll just as Brandon will be getting a little bit more buzzy bears throughout the show. We'll roll with it. We'll ask him more intense questions as the show goes on. Oh, well, that's awesome. And Constantine, I know we talked about this before the show, but you're having some
South Pacific Coffee Jungle Blend. This is wild Fijian coffee that's harvested up in the hills of some of the islands here around Fiji. So when you come down here, you got to get some of this and take back with you. Lovely stuff. Gets me going in the morning.
I gotta get into it. Oh man, I know. Well, you're a trooper. So shifting to our guests, as mentioned, we are on the Emerald Isle, and everyone thinks of the home of Ireland being whiskey. And there's that. The other one that is a very underappreciated spirit that I was messaging both of our lovely guests on is poaching, and I actually have some poaching, and we'll talk about that, I'm sure, at a different time. But when you think about Ireland, you don't think about rum. So I guess for our two guests, really excited to kick off with both of you on a little bit about yourself, your distillery, and why rum. So who wants to go first? Who's the first victim?
I nominate Ollie.
Right, dead on, Brennan, dead on. So, folks, thanks for having us on. A good show you have there. So Fore Distillery, we're a small little craft distillery, an hour from Dublin in a little village called Fore in County Westmeath, a very historic, scenic little part of the country. And, so if you're ever over, you can come up and down from Dublin for the day, so it's very close. The story with the rum, I remember years ago thinking, when I spent a bit of time in Boston and I met a lot of people from the Caribbean, and then they were saying that's kind of where I got me interested in rum, and we're asking, do you distill rum over there? And I says, no, there's not very much rum, no. And then I was thinking about it, I would say, why not? Why is there, why did we never, bother with rum? I know years ago you probably had to be close to a sugar cane plantation, but, the way things, when you put it into a higher sugar concentration, like a molasses, you can have it anywhere in the world. So I said it'd be kind of an interesting thing to do, and even, like if you're doing a whiskey in Ireland or whatever you're doing, everything from the water you're using to the barrel you're maturing it, everything is going to have, a say on how that rum comes out or how that spirit comes out. And I was saying, like, it'd be very interesting to see how a rum, if you had an aged rum would mature and what it'd be like, what the end product would be like. And so I always had the idea to set up a distillery. And so I come back from Boston in 2016, and a site came for sale beside an old abbey. And I was saying, like, this is the ideal spot. The old abbey, the monks, are linked with bringing distilling to Ireland and all that.
Yep.
And I says, I have a good story, I have a good base. And we opened, that COVID thing came in there, and then we didn't get open until 2021. So we started distilling the rum and putting rum away, maturing. And now, really, the rum, it's only coming into its own. Well, some rum kind of maturing for about 3 years, and nice, real flavorful rums. And I was saying the whole thing has a bearing on it from the water. We're using local spring water from a well. The yeast you're using, the barrels you're maturing it in. So it's very interesting, And with a rum, you're not trying to copy anybody. You're putting your own style on your rum. So I let everything do its thing. Let the barrels, let the yeast, let the water just do its thing and see how it comes out. And you have a bottle there, Brian. So we think it's it's unique. It's a good rum. It's you won't get the same, no matter what. The next rum is going to, even another Irish rum, is going to be slightly different too. So that's kind of where it came from, and like Ireland is, as you were saying, is not known for its rum, so it's a bit of a challenge, but it also has an opportunity there. Why not? Why can we not distill rum? Like we'll have a connection with the Caribbean. Our people were shipped off to the Caribbean in the 1600s. When rum came about in the first place. So our people who were shipped to the Caribbean probably had a say in distilling, fermenting the sugar cane, and so that's another interesting story as well.
Absolutely.
So
I love that. Well, Ollie, thanks for being here. Brandon, tell us about Killowen and yourself.
I suppose, like Ollie, we're a small distillery as well. Gorgeous wee spot overlooking the sea, high up in the mountains. So there's that Highland maritime feel. But whiskey is where my love really, really lay, and that's why we set up the distillery. But I love all spirits. I love mezcals, I love rums, agricoles, you name it, poachings, anything. So we want rum. We want more rum. There wasn't any in Ireland, to be honest. At the time, there was no proper rum in Ireland. There was a lot of like rum that was imported and all that. So we said, do you know what? We're going to make our own rum, real rum from molasses, and we're not going to spice it or anything. We're just going to make real rum. And because we seen it didn't exist, so we just make for ourselves, and hopefully people have the common sense to like the same stuff we do. So that was it. Yeah, so we got molasses, pure molasses, and just started to ferment it. So we only do this once a year for a few weeks at the height of summer. But we do these mad, open top, long fermentations, things that last sometimes a couple of months, and then we distill it. But in terms of aging it, we put it into a Solera system. So we let it work its way down through a Solera. So we've got stuff there that's 5-year-old, and then we've got stuff from this year that's sort of working its way through. But then after the first couple of times you were distilling rum, and I was tasting my own collection of these lovely high ester rums, and the stuff we were making was more conservative rum. So actually, after a while, I started to learn more about making it, and so the rum started to turn into high ester cuts, which are all at the front. You know, the four shots basically. Just after four shots, you're into the esters. So our rum then in the Solera system started off like kind of, you know, most people would accept it, but now it's becoming a little bit more geeky. Like those flavors are really starting to work their way down through the Solera, and that's what we're putting out at the minute. So it's, yeah, we love doing it. Absolutely love doing it. It's great.
That's awesome. I love to hear it. And, you know, it's kind of a story that we kind of hear over and over again is, hey, you know, I'm really big into whiskey, big into this, or I finally got to try rum and said, hey, why aren't we doing this? So since with my hats off to you gentlemen for jumping into the rum world in a very, I would say just an alien kind of market to it, right? Because as far as I understand, I have yet to make my pilgrimage to the homeland for myself. But I imagine it's a pretty big pub culture, right? So lots of pints. I'm sure a little bit of like, you know, Irish whiskey as well. But when it comes to rum, so I guess the first thing I'm so curious is how has the response been? Like, are you in the pubs doing tastings? Are you doing, and are people kind of looking at you sideways going, wait a minute, rum? You're distilling it here? Like, what's going on? What's the feedback been?
Yeah, you got to go to the good spots, don't you? Like, Morale and I meet up in bar 1661 in Dublin. It's probably, I'd say it's among the best bar in these islands, you know. And then there's Cask down in Cork as well, so they're playing away with the rum as well. So that's where you got to go and try it, is wherever you got these real ballsy bartenders and bar owners that really work with their heart, you know. That's where we got to go. I don't know. What about you, Ollie?
Yeah, it's the same story. Like, you know, over here, like, you guys over there know your rums a little bit better than, like, as there is a certain percentage of people here that know their rums too, but overall maybe not so much. So it's the same story. You get out there and you try to get your product known and stuff. Yeah, most people are very pleasantly surprised to say, "Wow, that's a very decent rum." You know, like. And I used to always say, like, a nice sipping rum is as good as any whiskey. So, yeah, people are, you know, they're pleasantly surprised with what we have.
Yeah, we talked about a little about where you guys are just geographically, and there's been a lot more talk about terroir and rum and whiskey even. I mean, how does that affect it? You guys have tasted rum, of course, from the Caribbean and all of that, but what is it about your environment that's maybe giving something new or different to your rums?
For me, terroir is the term terroir itself. I suppose if it's defined, it can be confused, but when it's used in the broader spirit sense, it's a different word than should be used in the wine industry. For me, terroir is, if you're looking for an Irish word, it's Dinchanchus. You know, it's that lore of place, hyper-regionalism, if you like. So for us in Killowen, that's weird wild fermentations. That's wild yeast, wild bacteria from the atmosphere getting in there and making it stamp on your product and making it hyper-local, hyper-regionalised and part of that place. There's no doubt about it that the molasses, when we get it in, majority of which come from the Caribbean, a little bit of it for some reason in that blend comes from South Africa. I don't know how, but that's what's in the data sheet. But that's where it is. So it's every drop of rum we make, it's hats off to the real custodians of the rum and its history as well, of course. So for us, it's just it's for us, all we can lean into then is our own cuts, our own still shape, but more importantly for Killowen, it's wild fermentations, you know.
Yeah, so say same story here. Don't go mad with the fermentations, but you know, like I think everything has its purpose. Yeah, and even the air, you know, we're a little island here too. You know, mightn't be as hot as the Caribbean and stuff, but all that is going to have, you know, different effect on the maturing and the aging process. You distill a decent product and you go from there, you know, take your proper cuts, make sure you have, you know, a good spirit. You know, we're using combination of a pot and column for our distillation. But you know, no, it's the same. Everything has a bearing on it. I just let everything do its job.
Yeah. And you guys, like physically, you're not that far apart, right? I mean, you're.
Oh,
no,
yeah,
an hour's drive, right?
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah. It's crazy, yeah.
right.
But you're a Meath, though, aren't you, Ollie? Or are you?
I'm from Meath, but I'm on the Meath-Westmeath border. So the distillery is in County Westmeath. Yeah. So
Ireland's.
yeah, I'd be only about an hour from Newry. So
yeah. Ollie puts the boot down and arrives. No.
Oh, nice. For your maturation, what sort of you guys lose? I guess with your climate, you don't lose much in angel share, right? I mean, you guys pretty much keep a lot in the barrel.
Well, year one you would lose 3%, and then every year thereafter 2%, and this is a loose rule, you know. But we tend to lose ethanol to the atmosphere, which is bad. But when you go to the Caribbean, these guys are losing more water. So sometimes the ABV can go up, you know. But for us, it's horrible. We're losing the good stuff. You can always add water back in if you want.
Is that why you do like the Solera?
I think we just do the Solera because I was playing with a range of different casks, you know, and it's sort of I just thought it'd be pretty cool to see what would happen, and we never wanted to put an age statement on the rums. We just thought we'd let it keep blending, you know, and keep working.
Yes.
It just worked well because how often we're doing the production, you know. And,
right.
Yes. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. I'll be something like that too, Brendan. You know, when it's right, it's right. You know, it doesn't matter the age of it. When it's ready, it's ready. And you know, a lot of different factors into that. You know, so one could be a couple of years different than another. With you know, the Caribbean, a lot of things will happen a lot faster with you guys over there, and be kind of probably a slower process here because the temperatures don't fluctuate as much here. So
and the age statements, it's kind of meaningless sometimes, right? Because of just rum from different places, and you know, it's all the marketing, right? I just want the good stuff in the bottle.
That's it.
Yeah, an age statement might get you your first sale, but who's going to come back for another bottle? You know, if it's not great.
Well, another thing. That's what I love just about both of your guys' lovely bottles here is just that I find that a lot of distillers that I really enjoy, like Chairman's Reserve, for example, as well, they don't have any age statements on it because they want to let the liquid do the talking. Whereas historically, there's been others that have come in the past that have said, oh, this is a 23-year-old something from somewhere in the world. And then it turns out there was nothing 23-year-old about it. There was like a little maybe drop.
Funny how that number always comes up in this conversation.
You know, but it is interesting. So I mean, just the differences between rum and whiskey, for example. I mean, I'm probably going to ask you guys different variations of similar questions. But in the whiskey world, I know everything is, oh, this is a 25-year whiskey from, you know, the Highlands of Scotland or wherever. And with rum, there isn't really that big of a focus on it. And also, though, when people come into rum, like I do some things with El Dorado here in the States, and people will skip the 12-year, the 15, and they'll immediately go to the 21-year-old and say, oh, that one must be the best because that's the oldest. And you don't get that same correlation. I mean, even in whiskey. But I mean, I'm just curious to that point of different perceptions on rum. Do you guys have any fun stories of doing tastings and either people going, oh my God, why is rum here? Or trying rum and going, oh, this is awful. Or like, is there any one where there's just something that comes to mind? I'm so curious.
Well, initially, whenever I talked about those conservative cuts, we were doing whiskey cuts and we put it out in the blind tasting and a lot of people loved it. And they were like, oh, that was, a few of them were like, oh, that's my favorite whiskey. We didn't tell them what it was. They actually thought it was whiskey. So that was the problem there. But yeah. Just shows you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Blind tasting will just put anybody in our box, including me. You know, you never know what.
Same.
Like
Same. I mean, I do. I have a game with my friend Robin. She actually is distilling her own rum here in LA, where I'll give her one of any of the 600 plus bottles I have in a little tasting. And to date, she hasn't gotten it right. And anything that she's given me, I haven't gotten right either, because we're supposed to guess on like where it's from, like specifically the country. We don't have to get down to like the distillery or anything, because that would be impossible. But I mean, even just crossing over, I've had people blind taste me on Armagnacs, and I'm like, oh yeah, this isn't interesting. I think this kind of tastes like something from South Africa or wherever. And they're like, oh no, that's Armagnac. I'm like,
That's unmistakable sometimes if you know what it is. But yeah, you never know. It can throw you off.
Yeah.
100%.
Well, if you get the country right, you'd be close enough. You wouldn't be too bad.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Ireland or Scotland, you'd be close enough.
Yeah, that would help.
And
So
I mean,
how do you
that
approach
just
people? Like, you guys both make whiskey, and you got your rum in the lineup. Do you, like we just said, do you try to sneak it in there and just, here, try this, and then people think it's whiskey, or how does it work?
I do that. I used to do that. But now I always include rum in a tasting. So although we've got our Solera system, we've had a couple of, we made like a lot of this really funky cuts, high ester rum before, and we had a single cask of it. We brought it to a couple of tastings, and then there was a bar down in Kilkenny. Chris Hennessy was running it at the time, and he was just like, here, we got to get that cask. Can we have that single cask? And we'll put it in our menu and we'll sell it. And then we couldn't believe it. We made a single cask rum. This stuff was going out at 68%. Like, this was really high proof. And so, yeah, they had that down there. We just call it Funky Cuts Rum, because it was just about really delving into that high ester madness. And they're a real, geeky flavour bar, which was great. So, so it's Brewery Corner. If anybody goes to Kilkenny, this place has basically bottles of really high strength rum in the background, and it was
called?
the best
What's
rum
the
we
place
ever
called?
made. Brewery Corner.
Brewery
Corner in Kilkenny. And this stuff was banging. But so they've got their own single cask. I don't know how I got onto that, but it's all about the distillate. It doesn't need to be about the aging, So we put this in a refill cask. So the cask was basically a dead cask. It was spent. And the reason we put it in this cask, we just wanted to leave it for a few years just to see what would happen. But we didn't want any big cask influence. We didn't want a big bourbon influence. We wanted just maybe the spirit to rest for a while to see what would happen to the esters. And it was just, it was banging. Like, when it came out, it's a very light color, which was fine. But it was, loved it. But you get 2.5-year-old rum that was just extremely light color. It was unbelievable.
I love it. And speaking of, this is one of the most technical questions that I'll ask, and we won't go anywhere near this, but it's not even that technical. Is there specific like Irish oak that you guys have your ability to get your hands on? Because in Hawaii, they have the koa wood, which makes their rum such a beautiful red hue. In Colombia, there's Andean oak, Brazil, Amburana. Is there a specific kind of Irish oak that you guys have the ability to get your hands on, or not so much?
I've done a lot of research into this, and we have Irish oak. The reality about Ireland used to be heavily forested by oak, and it's actually it's some of the emblems of different counties and different things like that.
Sure.
But it was deforested to build, the British naval fleets to turn around and colonize the world and whatever. So as a result, then there was no oak left in Ireland at all. So Irish oak's very scarce, but it just so happens that Irish oak is the same species as Hungarian oak. So you can, if you taste what Hungarian oak's influence has, it's different from the French limousine oak. So, but it's still it's quite related. But it's different from the American oak, because American oak's full of vanilla. Ours is Irish oak. When you do get to use it, is much more dry spice, like clove candy, clove rock sort of stuff. But yeah, we got our hands on some naturally felled Irish oak trees that were a couple of 100 years old and have been air dried for 20 years. We're doing some fun stuff with it at the minute. But the oak isn't the oak here in Ireland. It's very hard to get, and if you do get it, it's probably not worth using then to any great extent. It's too aggressive as a virgin influence.
Okay.
Yes. Same story, Brendan. I thought I was unique there. I thought I was the only one that got a few L3s, but it's a hard timber. It's hard to do anything with. But it does have unique spices and stuff in it. So yeah, there is not a lot of oak, but if you can get some of it, you can do. If you get a few barrels, you can do a little bit of finishing and stuff in it.
Sure.
That's about it. There's not enough to fill every liquid with it, but there is a little bit, and it's like it was our national tree, and then like it was, it's all gone, more or less gone. But
England strikes again.
The same trees were used to take the rum from the Caribbean.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
There
hey,
is a connection there
it's a
somehow.
long history of Ireland involved in rum, so that's fantastic.
Do you know,
Oh,
I've
man.
actually got a point from you. But a lot of people who understand spirits in the world should really know who Fionn O'Connor is. And that's a difficult name to remember, but he's the author of the book A Glass Apart. So if you know that, A Glass Apart, look up the author of the book. So he is, in fairness, he's the best historian for Irish whiskey and spirits. I think he's probably in the world. He's amongst the best historians for world spirits. He's quite a young guy as well, and he's an absolute brilliant asset to world spirits. But Fionn actually does a lot of research into mash bills and things like that, and he done research into rum, of course. But during the heydays of Irish whiskey, when Irish whiskey was far outselling Scotch, when Irish whiskey was the world whiskey of choice around the world, we were actually for a period drinking more rum in Ireland than we were whiskey during that period of time. That just shows you how
everything
badly
was everything exported, and was it just being exported to other markets, or?
Well, it was so accessible, first of all, and we were
Sure.
also all alcoholics as well. And these boats basically carrying human cargo and whatever out to the, and then they were coming back with something. But they were coming back with rum, and the first stop for that was Cork, and they got in Cork, and this stuff was cheap. They just had to fill it. It was cheap. It was made cheap and everything. And as a result, the Irish people were able to get it for cheaper than they were whiskey. They loved it. So that's what started the temperance movement in Cork, was more the rum consumption than the bloody whiskey consumption.
No kidding. You know what's interesting too is that it was the same thing in the United States. The temperance, unfortunately, I think the U.S. was one of the few countries that had prohibition. I know that there were a couple others, but everybody wanted to demonize rum because whiskey had very powerful lobbies and everything like that. But there was some xenophobia involved in it. There was definitely some. Rum was the evil spirit. It was pointed towards immigration of, Irish, German, Polish immigrants, and they're coming in, and their religious beliefs, or they don't belong here. And it's kind of weird. We kind of have those same conversations today, but we'll leave that alone. And it's rum has been the thing that has been demonized. And we had Kit Carruthers on from Ninefold. I'm not sure if you guys know Kit, but it was a similar thing that happened in Scotland. Scotland was outproducing rum over whiskey, but then the government got involved and killed all rum production. So it's just interesting that in different pockets of the world, there is a pretty rich history of rum. And the same in the United States. I mean, during the colonial times, we had 140 rum distilleries up and down the colonies. And then when we won the revolution, we needed to subsidize agriculture, and molasses was an imported product. So it's wild how all of these things just kind of weave in and out. But
from big political shifts.
100%.
It's unbelievable. It can nearly create cultures and subcultures. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I just noticed something when I was putting this back in the shelf. This is an interesting one. Not to bang on about Killowen, but just in case, this is my last
let's
drop
do
of it here. So this was a rum we done for the Killowen cult. The Killowen cult is an organised group of supporters of Killowen Distillery. They've got their own cult cards, membership cards, and they're self-organised and they're self-policed, and it's a very well-run group. There's no assholes there. Anybody misbehaves to get kicked out. This one is a blackberry rum. So what we done was we decided not to use any yeast at all. So we just picked a lot of blackberries in the autumn time, or in August time a couple of years ago. A few years back, and we let them sort of fester a little bit. They all, get furry, and that's the yeast kicking in. And then we just pitched it. We pitched these mad, funky blackberries into the rum, and then within a few months, it created a perfect wash for distillation. So that's how we made this blackberry rum. I just seen it hiding. I forgot about it, but that's all I have left of it, and it belongs to the Killowen cult. And this is an amazing little rum, but.
I like how there's no hiding it. You just go straight out label it. It's a cult.
As you're talking about it, I'm like, yeah, cool. So wait, how does somebody join this cult? Like, do we have to do instead of blood packs, rum packs? Because I'm all for that.
You're just in time. We're going to do a nature walk in a few weeks, and everyone's going to go out and drink at the same time.
Oh my god! There we go. Now you're talking.
So guys, I was just wondering on the bourbon and stuff, on bourbon in the new barrel all the time. So how's your oak going over there? Is it is you loads of oak, or are you getting scarce, or what's the story?
I think it's still pretty hard to come by. And I know, I've trying to get my hands on some just to ship over here for us to use when we need it. And it's still, there was so much production of the big houses, right? And, of course, with that, what I hope would happen is we'll get away from the scarcity because, they can only use it once, right? So now that bourbon is at that peak production, hopefully in some number of years, all that will be getting kicked out to the rest of us who use the second fill casks.
Yes.
I think it's still right now is a bit tough to get your hands on unless you know people and you have big budgets and all that.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think the big budgets is the key, right? Because a lot of the clients that I work with, they don't have any issues getting their hands on things, but because they have 5 or 6 ginormous rick houses throughout the countries that they're produced in. But as far as craft goes, I think it is getting a bit harder. A lot of people aren't using traditional size barrels. They're having to use smaller barrels. You're having to produce less. Or unless you're like Privateer up in New England, where they are almost exclusively new American oak. So yeah, it's a bit tricky.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, over here at the minute, we're able to get new make oak easier than AB ones. New American oak. But in saying that, it's much more expensive.
Yeah.
But still, it's actually easier to get your hands on them. It's insane.
No kidding. That's
Might
wild.
change the rules maybe with the bourbon.
Might have to.
Yeah.
That would be an ecumenical matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, and I think so. You both are craft distillers, big fans, and I know that people can get their hands on Fore Valley, Killowen. We're working on, which you and I have to chat because I know a couple importers, but we'll leave that. Well, we all have to chat because I want to get good Irish rum into the U.S. But as far as craft distilling and all of that, to kind of piggyback on just what we were talking about. What story do you guys feel your rum specifically tells? And do you have kind of a personal favorite story from the distillery and learning about how to distill rum and all of that? So I'm just curious to hear from you both on that.
You just have you have pride in what you're doing, and you're distilling a decent product. You're taking care to distill that product, and as I was saying, everything. Your locality, your ingredients, your water, everything, and all that is going to have a bearing on the end of it. A story with the distillery and stuff. I don't know whether this is related anyway, but I'll put it out there anyway. So when I was over in the US, and I was interested, kind of going off track a little bit here, but. Going back to the poaching, the poaching and the moonshine in the US has a similar story. So I went down to see what they were doing with the moonshine down in the southern states. And then when I was down there, I went talking to people and, just finding out what was going on and listening to stories and all that. And then I knew a good bit about it, but I didn't. One of the things was that, with the bootleggers, there was, when they were distributing the moonshine, the moonshiner that was making a little bit of money could hire better drivers than the ones that weren't and stuff. And then at the weekends, them bootleggers, they didn't have much to do, so they set up the stock car racing, and that stock car racing evolved into NASCAR racing. Eventually,
very good.
Into NASCAR, and I went back. I says that story stuck in my head, and I says I need a story like that. So when I came back, I didn't get a story.
You went back and started running from the cops?
Yeah, you said
Yes, running from the cops.
Eagle Stills and Hooch.
Eagle Stills.
Told you drive fast.
Where it brought me when I got back, it brought me to the monks. So it was from one to the one. Well, probably back in the day, the monks were probably as bad as the bootleggers. But so when the site came up for sale beside where the abbey is, the old ruins of the abbey, I says, I have my story now. I have my monks. I have the distillery. It's not this, it's not the story like the bootlegger NASCAR, but it's still a good story. And so
no, I think it's key, right? It's because the monks in Ireland are at the forefront of several points in history after the Roman Empire fell. And with Christianity and all of that being the prominent religion at that point in time, a lot of the texts ended up surviving in Ireland that were destroyed elsewhere. So a lot of historians have credited monks in Ireland for preserving the written history of Western civilization. So there's that piece, and then of course that it's really has yet to be really talked about. I'm sure in other formats, but definitely not on this podcast, about the initial of all things alchemy was to try and find elixirs for eternal life. And I'm sure that's what we know, like, oh yeah, we're trying to find a way to live for forever. And that's why we're distilling all of these things, But exactly. So yeah, but you have your monks and it's just such rich history that's part of Ireland. So Ireland has saved the world on several times and then helped iterate on distillation, which we were talking about. There was something about Ireland revolutionizing pot stills where Scotland didn't want to, or something like that, if I'm remembering correctly.
That was pot still itself as a category, where the Scots basically, with the demise of pot still Irish whiskey, which was the whiskey of choice, and they created the vacuum from which the single malt as a category really thrived. So pot still is the original quintessential whiskey of choice for the world. Not to take away from the single malt, which is a glorious invention as well.
Sure.
But yeah, Irish pot still is where it's going to be in the future.
Yeah, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
No, I love that.
Yeah.
And well, Brandon, what about you? Kind of what stories you kind of think your rum tells, and any anecdotes that kind of capture that?
Well, I suppose we're just all about being, small batch experimentation. That's what it is. Highly experimental small batch. So, there's flame fed stills, there's worm tub condensation, there's wild fermentation, and then there's the really funky frontal cuts as well. And then plus in the location that we're in, just with the Highland maritime environment, it's just very picturesque, and it really allows you to use your imagination about the sea and beyond, and the history and the remoteness of what's there, But although you're looking back in all of these old methods of flame-fed distillation and worm tub condensation, things that have really fallen to the wayside for efficiency reasons, we're still are bold and contemporary and exciting, So it's not about, you don't want to be just too stuck in the past. It's really outward-looking, forward-looking, and experimental, and we tend to document a lot of these things too. So I just see world spirits as a really interesting category, and it's if we have an opportunity to delve into them, we do. That's just the way it is.
Well, and to that point, so I know that we all know good old Ray Lucy at the Liberties of Dublin. I'm actually seeing Ray tomorrow.
Yeah, very good. Very good.
I love, and it was, I know, because I think I was sending, I don't know if it was you, Brendan, but I was sending the Killowen Instagram like photos of the pochine that Ray was having me try. But what I brought that is surprisingly, if you were to do blind tastes of this, so this is Aruapan Charanda. This is a single cane varietal from Mexico, and this is from Michoacan. Ray and I tasted this after having some poaching, and this is nearly identical because it has the same kinds of flavor profiles and everything. And Ray was like, I need to get like 6 bottles. I'm like,
brilliant.
Yes, but it's really cool from a world spirits where you start seeing kind of things overlap. And I'd never had poachine until I was with Ray, and now I have 2 bottles thanks to both of you guys. So thank you.
Play. Once you get good poaching,
Well, so that's the thing, right? And so what I'm excited to do now is to be able to do kind of line overs like what you guys have done with your tastings, right? Like, here's your blind tastings. Oh, you like that? Well, That's rum. You're welcome. But no, I just love it. It's just amazing that the more that you taste and try, the more you start seeing kind of things overlap. And it makes the world feel a little bit more cozy, you know? And I don't want to sing the Disney song, It's a Small World, but I mean, I
No,
hate that
fair
it's
play.
cliche, but it really is, you know?
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
No, well said, Brian.
Yeah,
you know,
that's it. Yeah, what you're saying there, Brian. You know, like we do tours of the distillery as well, and you know, you're always meeting different people from different countries, and everybody has a story. So there is a few stories like that, even you know, from all other European countries and stuff that have very interesting things like that. So you know, and you're always learning from them. You know,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Talking about poaching and moonshine, and you mentioned NASCAR there, Ollie. I'm from Alabama, so you know NASCAR is it's in the blood down there. But poaching has come up. Like I'm new to this. Brian, you know about it. I'm sure a lot of the listeners have no clue what we're talking about. What is? I don't even know if I'm saying it right. Poaching.
Yeah, poaching or poaching. Yeah.
Yeah. What is this?
What I would say, Constantine, is I'll jump in from a relative standpoint. We'll hear from our guests. So, poaching is the whiskey world, specifically Irish specific, of what Cloren is.
Okay.
So that's kind of what I'll preface for our listeners who may be a little bit more rum focused. It's definitely in the Cloren category of.
Funky,
I don't want to say moonshine
because
because that makes it sound like it's an inferior spirit, and it's not. But I mean, just like with Cloren, like a good 1-to-1 is Cloren actually predates rum and rum barbancourt and poaching.
This is like farmers making this stuff just.
This is earliest days of Ireland, I'm sure.
Okay.
Yeah, it really is like poaching predating. So the words, it wasn't the word poaching and the word whiskey actually evolved quite close to each other at the same time. And this is the first time that they were both written down. So, you know, we can't be exactly sure about when they were actually spoken. Again, this research is coming from Fionn O'Connor. The folks, you know, that one there, that the Dagda's Oats for me is, oh man, that's probably the best poaching we've made as well. It's an oaten one, peated oats. So poaching is whiskey's mummy. Poaching means small still, but you can't translate it properly. In the end of anything in our own language means, you know, affection as well. You would refer to your child as my store een, or my wern een, my little love, my little treasure. So it's een is something that has affection. We loved poaching here. It was economy. It was everything. And Bushmills made in the 1800s made a whiskey called Inishowen style whiskey at one stage, but there was no whiskey made in Inishowen. But it was the most famed poaching, and it was exported all around Scotland and Ireland. And it was a massive earner. So there's a period of time in Ireland known as the Poaching Wars, when the redcoats used to come in and they used to just try and like wipe out whole neighbourhoods to get these illicit distillation stopped. And they lost quite a few men doing it. Like it was a massive part of our history that was pushed underground. But there's a handover period now because poaching makers are dying out very quickly, and they're starting to make a lot of them are making really poor grade stuff. But in the past, you wouldn't have went to any poaching maker. You would have went to a good one. You had choice. There was diversity. It's a massive part of our culinary heritage. You have to remember that whiskey making was the preserve of the ruling class. 99% of that was basically a planted ruling class, just to be quite honest. And so the people of Ireland, when they drank what they called whiskey or what they called poaching, is what they drank. They drank poaching made locally. And to be honest, a lot of the ruling class enjoyed it too, because most of the times it was much, much better than the stuff that was coming out of some of those distilleries. If you read into the Royal Commission and they're tasting some of this terrible stuff that they're distilling, and people were actually opting to drink poaching instead. It was a much, much better quality spread. Folks, a good taste, you know.
So is there three, Brandon, where they, like from the monks distilling down, it was Ishkabaha, Water of Life, and then like the
actively, on Ishkabaha, the same words, the Water of Life,
yeah, and then like is whiskey the anglicized version or word from Ishka, where they couldn't say Ishka, and then whiskey it says whiskey.
Yeah, in a way, I suppose it could be. It's like the word sherry coming from Jerez, you know, so we can't really say that right. So they said sherry instead. Yeah, words change as they move cross borders. It's I suppose it's just the natural evolution of language. Yeah,
absolutely.
So and going back to the poaching and stuff. So the poaching was banned it's banned in 1661. So that bar in Dublin is called after the year.
England.
1661 might have been banned, but it thrived for a century afterwards.
Well, banning something makes it even more in demand, right?
Yeah,
that was the Molasses Act in the 1730s for the colonials. Oh, you're not supposed to trade with France or anybody else other than England, and they went, okay, sure.
How do you police this? How can that be policed? It's
right.
Not policed, especially when there was only control over certain parts of Ireland at the time.
Sure.
So it just was not policed. Poaching grew and grew and grew right up until the late 1800s. Like you're talking. When the world was in the industrial revolution, we were at our heydays in making poaching. So it's it's an ancient and a modern spirit.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love it.
And nobody felt like paying a tax. A tax that was never there before.
No taxation without representation.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't mind paying my taxes as long as it goes somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
You have a say.
Oh my God. Oh man. Well, and so with poaching, like I'd imagine, what was it? Because when we've talked about the Caribbean and Caribbean rum punches, and since obviously rum punch was not a thing in Ireland for a very long time, was poaching? Was it something that was neat? Was it something that was put into cocktails? Because we have the evolution of like an Irish coffee, so to speak.
Yeah. Poaching was all of those things. Poaching was medicine. Poaching was economy. It was economics. Poaching, when it was enjoyed in a culinary way, poaching was enjoyed with berries, sometimes made in, if you like, cocktails type thing, Poaching was also aged, because the only way of storing things really in those days was casks. So if you store it in wood, do you think they're going to wake up? The current legislation is erroneous. It was written by the whiskey lobby in order to keep it out. So you're not allowed to age poaching for any more than 10 weeks, and you're not allowed to say in the bottle that it's aged.
Oh, goodness.
Which is insane. You can't say cask aged. You can't even mention the word cask on it. It's laughable. So do you think back in the day when folks were making poaching, they woke up 9, just under 10 weeks, one more day to go, and they woke up in the middle of the night and goes, oh, Jesus, Mary, I better get the poaching out of the cask. It's not going to be poaching tomorrow. It's outrageous.
So what happens if it's 10 days and 1 minute? Am I still in trouble? And maybe even a half second. Yeah.
So
that's wild.
What they do is they take it out then, I don't know, maybe, usually it would be a seasonal thing, it could be up to a year even, or 2 seasons at least. So that's the reality of it. Another thing as well, you can use adjuncts. The current legislation allows you to use adjuncts, but in more recent years, there's recipes from the 50s showing that molasses started to make its way into the poaching as well. So you could use native fruit and vegetables as adjuncts, but then into more recent times, they used molasses as an adjunct as well.
Ooh,
so it starts to blur the lines with rum, which is very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, because it's in Mexico. They're actually doing sugarcane juice and agave together as far as a base distillate. And so, well, then question for you guys with all this. So with the long, rich tradition of poaching and it having a remnant of folks doing it, could we ever see like a poaching style 100% molasses expression released?
I don't think poaching's allowed to be 100% molasses. I'm not entirely sure. I need to look and check the file again.
No.
Do you know who uses? Do you know 1661's poaching? They own Ban poaching, and Ban has molasses in it as well. So that's a good example of one. Just you want to taste molasses.
So,
Ollie, does your
molasses come? No. So molasses be coming from the sugar beet instead of the sugar cane.
And that's another myth. They want you to do that. But that's another myth.
I know it is. Yes,
sugar beet was never commercially grown in Ireland, apart from Oxford or somewhere.
Yeah. And then
this is the whiskey lobby dipping their hand in.
Yeah,
which is fine.
So it has the connection with potatoes as well, and really the connection with potatoes came because more or less the poorer people, the peasants, they didn't have a lot of grain, so whatever you had, you probably you made use of. The
thing about potatoes, Ollie, it predates. Poaching predates the potato. The potato is a Peruvian root that was popularized here in late Georgian times, and then right up through the Great Famine was in 47 as a result of overuse of the potato. But that was a massive boom until then. So it was used. Potato was used as an adjunct. I suppose you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
wild.
So what's poachin, I guess, traditionally made from? Is it just grain or?
Mostly grains, yeah, with adjuncts
Okay.
of fruits.
Which I mean makes so much sense because of the temperate climate. So again, like with Haiti or even rum
Yeah.
production throughout the Caribbean, you had an abundance of sugarcane and you had a lot of local distilleries servicing local markets. And then over time things shut down. And then it sounded like with Ireland, some government regulations really made it very difficult to continue this even to this day. And so, the closest comparison would be, oddly enough, the Aruapan Charanda. So I would say that unaged cane juice spirits, whether it's aguardiente, whether it's cachaça, depending on the level of funkiness, Cloren, Ali, what you're enjoying there, that definitely, at least the few poachines that I've had, or even I forgot my show and tell, I'm enjoying this. This is from the SBS distiller or SBS independent bottler. This is their 1423 line single origin. This is Guyana. This is the Port Morant wooden still, unaged. And I've never had unaged Port Morant before.
A wooden still.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, well, that was the thing back
You went there, right, Brian? Tell us about that.
Yeah. Well, in all distillation, it all used to be wooden stills because you didn't have an abundance of copper or anything like that. So Guyana at Demerara, I learned that's how you say it. Demerara Distillers Limited in Guyana. I was there maybe a month ago. They have 14 stills on site, and they have the 3 heritage, which are a wooden coffee still, the Enmore from the Enmore estate. They have the Versailles from the Versailles estate, obviously, and that is a single retort pot still. And then they have the Port Morant, which is a double retort pot still, and these are all made of wood. And you can conceptually think, oh, wooden stills, that's cool, but when you see them, it's the only thing that's metal is the bolts that are actually holding everything together, and they have to keep the barrels, especially the single retort, the double retorts, wet the entire time, and to treat those and to make sure. But it's really interesting when you taste something unaged like this, straight out the still. It's proof down to 57, but you can just taste the wood in this without there being anything, or even having having like. This is another from Uruapan Charanda that I just opened, a different single cane varietal. This is the Caña Cristalina, but they do it in wooden open air vat fermentation. So I'm like, why am I tasting wood? This is completely unaged. So it's super exciting. So if you guys ever get a chance to go to Guyana to Demerara Distillers, particularly for you distillers, those wooden stills, that's how everybody used to make them. And I think it's really cool that El Dorado or Demerara Distillers, they do El Dorado and Diamond, but they're preserving those. I do think my joke is like, you have 14 stills. You guys trying to compensate for something? Like, 'cause I mean, 14 stills. They have 2 stills that are made of steel in the French Saval column style. And then they have a couple continuous column stills. So it's copper, steel, wood. So anyways, but that just goes into everything that we're talking about on the intricacies of rum and distillation. So I'd imagine even back in the day in Ireland, it was all wooden pot stills. And then when you had enough.
You're right. In fairness, the coffee still was invented by Annius Coffey. And when I talk about those coffee wars up in Inishowen, Annius Coffey was the head of Customs and Excise. He was a French Irishman, and he led the troops into Donegal, into Inishowen, to disband the stills, and they get a very hard time. And he invented the coffee still. Obviously, he stole the patent from somebody else. There was no patent still. And he went to the guys, the pot still makers, which is in Dublin, and they said, not a chance. That creates silent spirit. We don't like it. So he goes, is that right? So we went to the industrial Scots, and they completely embraced it.
Yeah.
So that I think that's probably what you were mentioning earlier on, actually.
Yes. That's exactly what it was, where Ireland stay with the pot stills,
But back then it was wooden, you're right. I loved it. I didn't know people still use it.
So those are the 3. They've been around since the 1730s and 50s or something. They've been around since the 18th century, and it is insane. It's so cool.
Brilliant.
Yeah. We'll have to go and see one of them.
Yeah. And speaking of, I mean, I got to get out to Ireland to visit your guys' distilleries because I've never been. I've got to come. And so with the rum that you guys are producing, I know we have Irish coffees. I'm sure that there's, a strong cocktail scene that's emerging or has been alive in Ireland. Are you finding with these bartenders that are, balls to the wall. That wasn't the exact expression, but I really like that one. So like just all like being really into it and exciting and creative. Are you seeing like, because I've talked with Ray about doing rum and poachine split based cocktails, or are you, what kind of cocktails are you seeing your rums go into? Is it traditional kind of old fashions? Are there completely brand new things that are blowing your minds? What does that look like for you guys?
I mean, well, when you talk about cask and cork, they're absolute nut jobs. They forage all their own botanicals and all their own ingredients from the native gardens around Cork. So cask in Cork,
I love
you
that.
have to go there. So they've got one on their menu now. So the menu changes, and we were delighted to get on it this time. So
Heck yeah.
it's called Pure Chancer, and it's
Pure
carbonated,
Chancer.
okay, and it's
Ooh.
fragrant, and it's like fruitcake. So the ingredients are Killowen rum, and then they've got Clement Cane blue rum in there as well.
Oh
And then
yeah.
they've got crab apple and geranium, and this stuff's just
Ooh,
carbonated together.
wow.
So it's
Crab
stuff they
apple.
do.
Holy
Yeah,
hell. And
stuff
cork.
they make.
All right.
Insane.
Or don't you mean Cork? And speaking of, I mean, we talked about it earlier of everything being so kind of isolated. I had no idea that there were so many different accents in Ireland. For a
It's the
country,
most regional
for an
place.
island
The most
so
regional.
small, the Cork accent is so different from Dublin versus Belfast and everywhere else in between. It's wild.
Between
Yeah.
myself and Ollie, I'd say there'd be about 4 before you get to Ollie. There'd be about 4 accents.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, 3 or 4.
All right. So I love that.
Yeah.
though, but
With
pure
Brexit,
Chancer.
can you guys go freely between? How does that work with Brexit now? Because you guys are on
No,
opposite sides, right?
I think Brexit was a big cog up, definitely, but they were just realised we're not going to mess with the Irish in this one. We're just going to leave it.
Oh
We're
man,
gonna
I just
leave
have
it.
these ideas of you guys running rum to each other,
Yeah.
just running across bottles going,
They just didn't bother.
just running,
They just
like
didn't
throwing
touch it.
them and then getting back.
Yeah. No.
In fairness, they were thinking
yeah.
about it. And Biden stepped in and he basically said, "Just don't," and they stopped straight away. And like, right, okay. And they took their hands off. So it's brilliant because the UK can't ship any of the whiskey distilleries. They can't ship stuff internationally anymore. They can't ship stuff direct. So what you see is because everybody's friends across the border, you get all these whiskey enthusiasts in the Republic, in the south of the border, who buy Scotch and they just get it shipped to their friends in the north, and then they just meet up and take it across. So basically, if we played our cards right in the north at the minute, it could be like the Singapore of Europe.
Yeah.
Ooh, there you go.
We get this no man's land of Europe and the UK, and it's insane. But there's a bit of backwardness here, so they haven't basically figured it out yet. So basically, we free trade everywhere. There's no tariffs. So.
Yeah.
Dang. All right. Well, Ollie, what about you with the cocktail? Are you seeing you're getting some placements in cocktails as well? Because I mean, that pure Chancers.
Yeah, well, for years and years, I suppose the young people were beer drinkers, and so that has all changed. All the young ones are all mad. You know, they're probably watching their figures and all the their weight and all. You know, keeping nice and fit, and so spirits is a big thing now. Really taking over now. And rum is like for a couple of years that. You know, gin was popular, but the gin thing has kind of turned. So you can see the rum is seems to be filling the spot off where the gin used to be. And
cool.
Rum, you know, as everything goes in cycles, you know, rum was popular years ago, and then it took, you know, that cycle passed and it went down, and it seems to be coming back again. So I can see. You know, in another 10 years, you know, it'll be a different story here, I think, for rum.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, that's exciting.
That's
That's so exciting. Do you guys, and selfishly I'm asking for me, do you guys ever do like single barrels, barrel picks? Have you done anything like that yet? And I'm asking for a friend, me.
Do you know, we done that one for Funky, the Funky Cuts one. We done it for Brewery Corner. That was one. But we have one cask sitting up there that we tasted the other day. So there was a whiskey bus came from America, and I haven't cracked this thing open in 4 years, and I cracked it open, and everybody loved it. So it was, it's one single cask that we've got sitting, but the rest of our room is in the Solera. But it's worth trying.
Yeah. I was single barrel for you, Brian. Yeah. Constantine. So we just have to get it over to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I mean, I have quite a few independent bottlers, unless you guys want to do it under your own label, but I have a few interested parties myself. And then somebody who has the largest rum club in the United States, I'm sure would absolutely be interested, that Constantine's actually a part of. So,
All right,
because
Constantine.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let talk more about that.
Yeah.
Be an interesting one for you. You know, you're not going to be crowded out with Irish rums.
Well, and that's the piece, right? Whether it's, I mean, the single barrel, I think, is something that gets a lot of rum nerds and high proof enthusiasts into it. But I think also is the eventual play, like looking into both of your crystal balls. You're in Ireland right now. Are you exported to other countries? Is the US on the list? Does the production that you guys and output that you're putting allow you to think about these things yet? Or is it, hey, we're just trying to get enough age stock and we're just trying to get enough under our belt to where we can start looking into where we want to go next?
We just take every day as it comes.
Sure.
I suppose we're lucky in Killowen that the spirit's in demand. So we just tend to work with people if we like them. That's
fair.
That's just it.
That's the way it should be.
Yes. That's not a bad way, Brendan.
Okay.
Yeah, same story here. We don't have large quantities, but you still have a little bit. So you can there's certain things we can do, and it's the same. Like, we're not operating that long, so we're building our brand and stuff. So it's important to get that name out there and stuff. And you crawl before you run too. But so, like, yes, you got to keep consistency and quality, and everything else. Then.
So do you both of you have tasting rooms, things like that? Can people come visit and have a drink at your sites?
Yeah. We tend to let people come once a month, but we have an open day and we usually have a tour that sells out. But on top of that, if there's groups, and we are available and they reach out, then by all means we let them come. But walk-ins, we can't do walk-ins because the place it's Ireland's smallest distillery. It's whiskey distillery. It's tiny, so we have to make sure that if people are coming, we need to make space. But yeah, we've got a tasting. We've got a bar area. That's the most important part of the area.
Yeah. Same here. We're doing tours. We're not massive either, but we have a little bit of space. We are doing tours and tastings and stuff. So you can more or less, with a day's notice, you can come over.
Okay.
Love it. Love it.
But I have to get you back. There's a few, around here, it's a very historic, full of folklore and stuff. There's a few little bars here too that hasn't changed in 60 years. Same furniture, nothing has ever changed. The stone floor stuff, and they're tiny. They're like going into your own living room. Great atmosphere. So if you're ever over, it'd be nice to get you down here.
It's not a if, it's a question of when. And so if I can use my crystal ball to maybe get out there, there next year, I'd love to. Oh yeah, because I still got to do the UK Rum Fest, and again, like, I would just come to Ireland and hang out with you guys, and then just bop around the country.
I'm just going on the Instagram and looking at your guys' the pictures and the scenery.
It looks beautiful. It's absolutely breathtaking.
Beautiful.
I love it. So everybody's got it. And I'd imagine that if people are listening on a book tour, they just come straight to your websites and do that. Obviously, no one's typing like the court stenographer, but for intense purposes of this.
Exactly.
Sorry, like, whenever I do this, just because I'm on video, I have to do this to like get home the point, because it
looks like that cat meme with the cat on
weird
on the computer.
I know. Oh yeah, I'm telling you.
If you're on mute and they're doing that, you're going, shit, the phone to place.
Yeah.
Oh, and he's buying too much rum.
No, I love that. Man, and so one thing I know that we've got roughly like 10-15 minutes left, but I always like to ask this as Constantine, because Constantine has some some distillery disaster stories. So has there been anything at the distillery where something's happened where it was like every expletive in the world comes out of your mouth, or like just, oh my God, what is happening? Like we've had people where molasses has exploded all over the master distillers. We've had it to where like barrels of molasses actually cracked and then were dripping down on customers from the ceiling. Has there been anything like and just people going like trying to get the bits of molasses coming out?
Montana
like,
is so funny.
Oh man, yeah. Have you guys ever had, or have there been any in the moment not so funny, but looking back funny disasters that have happened?
We had a rum incident. We had the rum wash, which, oh, for Christ's sake. The thing, right? We the tanks that we ferment and sit outside for rum, and they're just open top wild fermentation. That's the whole idea, you know. And the idea is you have to keep the top off them. So we had a new guy working with us, and he closed the lid, and the thing just bulged out. It just bulged out and it burst around, but it didn't. And then so we were up and we were poking it with a big massive 2x4, a centimeter by centimeter, just to get it to turn, to get it open, and it just burst way up into the sky. We get drenched. Luckily, no civilians were injured, but yeah, it just didn't stop. And by the time that thing had finished, it was just about a third of it left.
Oh no! And I'm sure in the moment when you're just getting drenched, it's just the acceptance of.
I know. And here, molasses is bloody expensive here. I know it's byproduct the sugar industry over on that side. See, at this side of the Atlantic, the stuff is expensive.
Yeah. And I'm sure you guys are getting it shipped from South America or wherever you're getting it from. So it's traversing quite a long way. So it's
plus
not like
it goes into Europe and then it's come back out to us. If it goes into Rotterdam, it goes to Germany and then comes back to us.
My goodness.
Oh man. Well, Ollie, what about you?
Well, I suppose if I says nothing happened, I say that lad's full of shit, huh?
Revenue, you're not watching this. All.
That's true. That's true.
You have to be careful. So it's on the other side, and it doesn't matter. No, same old crack. You always a fermentation that you think is finished or something. You open it up, same story. It's not finished, and then it's on top of you. Things like that. Nothing too serious, No, I can't say none. The usual. The poaching is very, very clear too. So I've seen a few times, not in my own place, but with.
Not from Fore, of course. Never from Fore Valley. Never.
Some people got water and poaching mixed up.
Yeah.
No! So
a likely story.
Pizza man.
Yeah. So that was more costly than the molasses.
Sure.
Yeah. So you guys, both small craft distilleries. Brendan, you mentioned the smallest in Ireland. I mean, what scale are both of you guys at? And just like in terms of your facility, how big are you, or small are you?
10 meters by 10 meters. What's that in imperial? I don't know, but 10 meters
30
by 10
feet
meters.
by 30 feet.
Yeah, probably is.
Okay.
40 yards.
So we're small, 100 square meters. But there you go. As Brian was alluding to earlier, we don't need to overcompensate for anything. We're happy. It's all about the motion in the ocean. We're fine with that.
No, it's not about the size. It's about how you use it. What about you, Ollie?
Size of the ocean. It was the motion of the ocean. So it's a slightly bigger. Well, it's only about 10 meters, 10 yards wide by about 100. But we have so the distiller. We actually there's a cafe in that too. So the distillery part is only about 10 meters, 10 yards by 30. about
Okay.
30 roughly.
Yeah.
And then we'll have a cafe there as well. So,
Yeah.
say, not big.
Sure. Okay. Oh, I love it. Well, Constantine, I mean, we've been with our lovely guests, history of distillation in Ireland, rum history, poaching, cocktails, and everywhere else in between.
NASCAR and moonshine
NASCAR
and all over the place.
and England and everywhere else in between. So
But when I first got to Fiji, a guy I was working with, Fijian guy, knew I didn't know much and was trying to tell me about a lot of stuff in Fiji. And anytime something bad or whatever it was, every time he'd link it, because it was a British colony, right? Always
join
back
the club.
to the British.
Join the club.
Always the British, sir. Always the British. When I would ask, why is this like that? Why is that like that? Always the British.
Yeah. They got around, didn't they?
Yes.
They certainly did. Dang.
Yeah.
Well, Constantine, do we have anything else to cover? Or do you want to?
Oh, man.
What are we thinking?
I mean, I have a bit of a link to I know no blood ties, but two things. My father was in a group called the Foolish Friends. It was a society. He was the first non-Irish descendant to be Grand Leprechaun of the Foolish Friends Society of Fairhope, Alabama. And he had a little staff that he carried and all of that. And then if you just want to
good God,
go on YouTube and search Leprechaun Mobile, Alabama, and you'll see the story of when a leprechaun made an appearance in Mobile, Alabama, and it's just crazy. The early days of the internet, funny story, worth the 2 minutes to look up on YouTube.
You're very proud, Constantine.
So Constantine falls into the camp of, well, since you don't have any Irish roots, but I'm cool because I have X% of. I have a few friends in Cork, so that's why I don't go, I'm this percent Irish, because it's like that's.
I don't mind it. I actually don't mind that. A lot of people are cynical about that, but no, I think the diaspora is basically. I think Ireland would be absolutely Donald ducked without the diaspora. So I'm really happy with it, to be honest. Yeah.
Well, it's better you want to be our friend than the other way.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, exactly.
So in that case, I am 3/4 Irish, baby.
I mean, I have to say, Irish are some of the coolest people in the
I've
world.
never been back, so I don't spell. My name is not spelled in the traditional Irish way. My mom was definitely a little bit more counterculture, but hey, we'll take it.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Oh, it's good.
Take
It's all good.
I mean, I did my first backpacking trip as a young college student in Europe, and the only advice my dad gave me is like, look, if you need any help, find an Irish pub. Good people are going to help you there. So
yes,
absolutely,
yeah. Salt of the earth.
Salt of the earth. Yeah.
They buy you a pint. You're in for 10 minutes.
That's fantastic. Well, guys, I know we have just a couple of minutes left, so I'd love to turn the spotlight back to you guys on where can people find you on the socials. I know that Fore Valley people can order direct to the U.S. Brandon, I don't think there's a way, at least outside of going to different online shops, to get your stuff in the U.S. But where can people find you? How can people follow along with what you're doing and get involved? Oh, nice.
We can ship too. Yeah, we ship all the time to the US. It's great. So the only problem is it takes 2 days to get from here to your door anywhere in the US. Except for Alaska, it takes you 3 days to get your door in Alaska. So we have to apologize for that.
I mean, they're Alaskan. They're used to getting everything at the very tail end of things. They're fine. They're fine.
But it's insane because it takes 2 days to get to anyone's door in Ireland as well. But it takes you 2 days to get anywhere in the States. I can't explain it.
So bad.
It's brilliant.
Yeah,
it's good.
That's it. Lads, before you go, I don't know whether you're interested in stuff. If you want like a little bit of the Caribbean connection and stuff, and what we were saying at the start of the program, like our people shipped off to the Caribbean in the 1600s and that. So there's some good folk music and stuff related to that. If you ever get a little Irish feeling in you and you're in the Caribbean or something, well, it's kind of sad enough too. So like, if you ever hear the songs like the Fields of Athenry, if you ever look them up, Fields of Athenry, or back home in Derry, Bobby Sands wrote that. So they are all related to people that were shipped out of Ireland, supposedly be for crime, but really for nothing, for labour, for the the colonies in the Caribbean and stuff.
Sure.
So that's our connection to the Caribbean. We didn't conquer anywhere. We went on the other side. Them little stories are kind of interesting too, you know.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That's a great song because it was the Dubliners who did the original of that, I think, right?
Yes, the
or
Dubliners.
no, it's like an old folk.
Paddy
It was probably a predated folk song that they ended up recording, though.
Yeah, there was a singer, Paddy Riley. Paddy Riley is a very good singer. He's an old man now, but he was one. Christy Moore, you can look up Christy Moore as well.
Okay.
Just thought I'd mention that anyway.
Awesome.
No, I love it. There's so many great folk Irish songs. Black Velvet Band is great. I do know one song in Irish, O Roshé de Vahawalia, which is
Yeah.
love that shit.
Yeah.
Love it. But no, that's awesome. So yeah, I mean, for any of our listeners, you can follow each of our lovely guests, Fore Valley Killowen Distillery on Instagram. I know Facebook. You can go to their websites, book tours, get over to Ireland when you're there. Don't overlook them because they're doing some really special and cool things. Ollie, Brandon, thank you guys so much for spending the time with us. This has been just a rip-roaring good time. No one says that anymore, but it's only great if it doesn't work. Yeah, but we do. We absolutely do. We don't have anything lined up for our next episode as of yet for our lovely listeners, but thank you guys for tuning in. Appreciate you all so much. And everyone, thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks very much for having us. An absolute pleasure.
Cheers.
Cool. All right. Cheers, guys.
Try to get you
Thanks,
over
everybody.
present soon.
Oh, I love it.
Put 'em in your
All
mouth.
right.
Thank you.
Cheers, guys. All right.